The Cosy Library at Langford Manor, the Lighthouse Keepers, Quiet Evening, EP02. Good evening. Come with me. I want to take you somewhere different tonight, away from the library, up through the manor. Follow me along the lantern hall, past the portraits, up the main stair, and then the narrower stair beyond it, the one with the rope handrail, all the way to the very top of the tower. Here we are, the Observatory. It is a small, circular room beneath a domed ceiling, and on a clear night like this one, it is extraordinary. The dome's narrow windows, showing a sky so full of stars that it seems almost improbable, as if someone has gone to excessive lengths. The brass telescope stands by the largest window. Though I have not used it tonight, I am simply sitting beneath the dome, in the old wooden chair that has been up here since long before my time, looking at the sky and thinking about what kind of story belongs in a room like this. The answer came to me almost immediately. A lighthouse, a keeper, a man alone at the edge of the sea on a quiet autumn evening, the light turning above him, and the stars out over the water. I think you will find, listening from up here, that it fits very well indeed. Before we begin, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, tonight is a good night to do it. Just a moment of your time, and it means a great deal. A like on this episode helps too, and leave a comment. I find myself wondering tonight, is there a place in the world where you feel genuinely, deeply alone, in a good way, the chosen kind of aloneness, with something much larger than yourself for company? Tell me where it is. I think about that question rather a lot from up here. Now, let the dome be above you, and the stars beyond it, and the whole quiet night around us both. Take one slow breath in, and let it go. Let me tell you about Thomas and the lighthouse, and the evening that is just beginning on his small Atlantic island. It is a quiet Thursday evening in late October, and Thomas has been keeper of the light for 11 years. The lighthouse stands on the western edge of a small island 3 miles off the coast. Not a large lighthouse, nothing that would appear in a calendar or a painting, but a solid, sufficient one. White painted stone tapering from its wide base to the lantern room at the top. The light in that room rotating every 15 seconds, sending its beam across the grey-green water in the particular pattern that is this lighthouse's signature, and that the fishermen from the mainland harbour know as well as they know their own names. The island itself is perhaps half a mile long and a quarter wide, mostly rock and rough grass, and the low, wind-shaped scrub that manages to grow in the thin soil above the tide line. There are no trees. There's the lighthouse and the keeper's cottage attached to its base, and a stone path leading down to the small jetty where the supply boat comes every 2 weeks. And that is all. It is not a hardship posting. Thomas chose it, applied for it specifically, waited 2 years for it to become available. He has been here ever since, and he intends to stay. The cottage is warm this evening. Thomas built the fire up after his afternoon walk around the island's perimeter, a walk he takes every day regardless of weather, a habit formed in the first winter here, when the confined space of the cottage and the tower was beginning to press on him, and the walk resolved it so completely that he has not missed a day since. He came back in the late afternoon with wet boots and cold hands and a piece of sea glass in his pocket, a thick rounded piece of deep green, found in the tide rack at the island's north end, and he set it on the windowsill beside the others. There are 7 now, each one a slightly different shade of green or brown, a collection accumulated over 11 years of daily walks. The island's slow gifts. The boots are by the door. The fire is going. Thomas is in his chair. The chair is by the window that faces south toward the mainland. On a clear day, and today has been a clear day. The October air washed bright after last week's rain. The mainland coast is visible from this window as a low, dark line on the horizon, 12 miles away, its details too distant to make out, but its presence reassuring, a reminder that the world of towns and roads and other people is there, available, should Thomas ever want it, which he mostly does not. Tonight, the mainland is gone not in cloud or rain, but simply in the dark, absorbed into the general darkness of the eastern horizon. And the view from the window is the view he prefers. Sea and sky, the stars coming out one by one over the water, and in the middle distance, the slowly turning beam of his own light, sweeping the dark every 15 seconds, regular and faithful, doing its work. He has a book. It is a library book. He has an arrangement with the library on the mainland. The book's coming out on the supply boat every 2 weeks, in a padded bag, chosen from a list he sends with the returning bag, though the librarian has developed such a reliable sense of what he will like that the list is now largely ceremonial, a formality they both maintain out of mutual respect rather than necessity. Tonight's book is a natural history of Wales, a serious one, scientific in its approach, but not dry, written by someone who has spent years at sea watching them, and who brings to the description of cetacean behaviour the same quality of patient, affectionate attention that Thomas brings to the keeping of his light. He has been reading it since the supply boat came Tuesday, slowly, giving each chapter the time it deserves, and he is perhaps a third of the way through, and already certain it is the best book the librarian has ever sent him. The light turns above him. Every 15 seconds, without fail, the beam sweeps its arc across the water, and Thomas is so attuned to its rhythm after 11 years that he no longer notices it consciously. It has become part of the background of his life, like the sound of the sea or the cry of the gulls, present and reliable and below the threshold of attention. He notices only when it stops, which it very rarely does, and the stopping of it brings him instantly, fully alert, out of whatever he was doing, and up the lighthouse stairs, to the lantern room. But tonight, it does not stop. Tonight the light turns, and the sea is calm, and the mainland is dark on the horizon, and the stars are coming in over the water, and Thomas reads about Wales in his warm cottage, and the evening is, in every particular, exactly as it should be. He puts the kettle on at 7. This is the established rhythm of his evenings. The afternoon walk, the fire, an hour of reading, the kettle at 7, then supper, something simple, whatever the last supply boat brought, Tonight a piece of fish from the fishmonger in the harbour town, who always includes something fresh when the boat goes out. And then the evening properly, which is more reading, or the radio, or simply sitting at the window, watching the beam go round, and the stars turn slowly overhead. The kettle is the kind that whistles, an old aluminium thing he has had since before he came to the island, and its whistle, when it comes, is one of his favourite sounds, the small, domestic, insistently cheerful announcement that the water is ready, that the tea can be made, that this part of the evening can begin. He makes the tea strong, in a brown, earthenware pot that has been on this island as long as he has, and he pours the first cup and wraps both hands around it and carries it back to the chair. The sea tonight is the colour of pewter in the last of the light, shifting to black as the sky deepens and the stars assert themselves. It is a calm sea, the kind of calm that follows a week of wind. The water, not glassy but low and settled. The swells long and slow and without urgency. The kind of sea that makes the island feel less isolated and more simply placed. The water, a connection rather than a barrier. A road in all directions rather than a boundary. Thomas knows this sea in all its moods. He knows the sound of it on the island's rocks in a southwesterly gale. The full Atlantic fetch behind each wave, making the cottage windows flex, and the beam in the lantern room streams sideways in the wind. He knows the flat calm of high summer, when the sea is so still that the mainland's reflection appears in it, inverted and perfect. 12 miles of reflection stretching across the water's surface, like a painting laid face down. He knows the fog and the swell after distant storms and the particular quality of the light on the water in February, low and horizontal and pink, that he has never been able to adequately describe to anyone on the mainland, and has long since stopped trying. The sea is his, or he is the sea's. After 11 years, he is not entirely sure which. He eats at the table. The fish, pan-fried in butter, with a little salt and some dried herbs, from the jar on the shelf, with the last of the bread from Tuesday's delivery. He eats without hurrying, looking out of the window at the beam going round and the dark water beyond it. The stars are fully out now, a clear autumn sky, no moon yet. The Milky Way beginning to be visible above the island's southern end as the sky darkens further. He finishes eating and washes the plate and sets it to dry on the rack and pours a second cup of tea and returns to the chair and the whale book, and the evening enters its long, comfortable middle stretch. The beam turns. Every 15 seconds, Thomas reads. The tea cools. He makes another pot. The stars wheel very slowly overhead. The sea breathes against the island's rocks in its quiet, rhythmic way, and the sound of it is so deeply familiar that it functions not as sound, but as silence. The sea's continuous presence, defining the quietness rather than disturbing it. The whale book takes him further and further from the island, out into the deep Pacific, into the cold waters of the Antarctic, into the complex, ancient world of creatures whose intelligence we have barely begun to understand, and whose existence predates our own by millions of years. And yet he remains entirely in the cottage, in the chair, with the fire behind him, and the sea in front of him, and the beam going round every 15 seconds above. This is one of the gifts that reading gives. And Thomas has always been grateful for it. The ability to be in two places at once, to travel without leaving, to be both here and elsewhere simultaneously. The elsewhere enriching the here rather than replacing it. At 9:30, he climbs the lighthouse stairs for his evening check. 92 steps, stone, worn smooth in the centre from decades of feet. He has climbed these stairs every evening for 11 years and has never once counted them without losing count at some point in the ascent, which amuses him. The lantern room is bright and functional and warm from the heat generated by the light source, and the beam goes round with a smooth, satisfied rotation of well-maintained machinery, and the sea beyond, the glass is dark and wide and scattered with the lights of a few distant vessels, tiny points moving on the horizon. He checks the log, checks the equipment, makes his entry for the evening. Everything in order. He stands for a moment at the glass and looks out at his sea and his sky. The Milky Way overhead now, fully visible, crossing the dome from northwest to southeast in its pale band of compressed light. He breathes in, he breathes out. He goes back down the 92 steps to the cottage and the fire and the whale book and the quiet remainder of the evening. Let Thomas's evening be your evening now. Let the cottage be warm around you, and the fire be at your back, and the sea be in front, dark and calm and wide, the beam going over it every 15 seconds with its reliable, faithful sweep. Let the whale book be open in your lap at whatever page it has reached, and let the words on that page be doing what good words do in a warm room at night, taking you somewhere quietly, without effort, your attention following them in the easy, unforced way of a mind that is truly at rest. Let the stars be overhead. Let the mainland be dark on the horizon, available but not needed. Let the island be the island, small and rocky and wind-shaped and entirely sufficient. The whole world reduced to this. The keeper, the light, the sea, the sky, the 15-second sweep of the beam, going round and round and round in the dark, above the calm water. Patient and faithful and entirely reliable. The lighthouse doing what lighthouses do, and Thomas doing what Thomas does, and both of them doing it well. Sleep now. The beam is turning. The sea is calm. Thomas is in his chair with his whale book. The fire settling behind him. The evening doing what evenings do when they are working well, which is to go slowly and gently toward the dark. The lamp turned lower, and the fire down to its embers, and the stars turning overhead in their ancient slow procession, and the light, always the light, going round every 15 seconds above it all, sweeping its patient arc across the water, saying what it has always said to anyone out there in the dark who might need to hear it. I am here. You know where you are. The water is deep on the other side. You are safe. Sleep well. Good night.